Why is it that when you look at the cardiovascular health of Japanese elders in their 90s and beyond, you see something that seems almost impossible by modern medical standards? A woman at 95, living in Kyoto, has a blood pressure reading of 118/76. Normal. Healthy. The kind of reading you'd expect from someone in their 40s in America. Meanwhile, a man in New York at 65 already has readings pushing 150/95, despite being on 3 different medications. Despite diet changes. Despite doctor's orders. He's resigned to the fact that high blood pressure is just what happens when you get older. It's inevitable. It's genetic. It's just bad luck. But it's not. I'm Dr. Kenji. I've spent over 30 years studying longevity and preventive medicine in Japan, working directly with populations of elders who maintain cardiovascular health that defies what we typically see in Western medicine. And what I've discovered isn't complicated. It's not genetic. It's not about expensive medications or advanced technology. It's about a system of habits, dietary choices, movement patterns, sleep structures, and social practices that work together to prevent the progressive vascular damage that drives hypertension in aging populations. The question isn't why Japanese elders have normal blood pressure. The question is, why do so many people in Western countries accept high blood pressure as inevitable? Today, I want to walk you through 8 specific factors that Japanese elders integrate into their daily lives. Each one addresses a different mechanism of vascular dysfunction. Together, they create an environment where the blood vessels stay flexible, the endothelium stays healthy, and blood pressure remains stable even as people age into their 80s, 90s, and beyond. This isn't about restriction. This isn't about giving up the foods you love or becoming obsessed with health optimization. It's about understanding how your body actually works at a cellular level, and then making practical choices that align with that biology. Some of these factors you may already know about. Others might surprise you. But what matters most is seeing how they fit together, how each piece supports the others in a coherent system of health. By the end of this discussion, you'll understand exactly why Japanese elders remain cardiovascularly healthy while so many others struggle with hypertension despite their best efforts. And more importantly, you'll have concrete, practical strategies that you can implement starting today, regardless of your age or current health status. Let's begin. Before we dive into these 8 factors, I want to say something directly. If you're watching this, you're already ahead of most people. You're already asking questions. You're already looking for answers instead of accepting what the mainstream medical system tells you is inevitable. And I respect that. What I'm going to share over the next few minutes is based on decades of clinical observation and research. It's practical. It's evidence-based. And it works. But it only works if you actually implement it. If you watch this and nod along, agreeing with everything, and then go back to your old patterns, nothing changes. Your blood vessels stay as they are. The progressive stiffening continues. The pressure keeps rising. So here's my ask, stay with me through this entire discussion. Don't skip ahead. Don't assume you already know what's coming. Some of what I'll share might be obvious. But some of it might completely shift how you understand your own health. And by the time we finish, you'll have a clear roadmap for what actually needs to change. Also, if this information resonates with you, if this is the kind of content you want to see more of, please hit the subscribe button. Not because I need subscribers, but because there are millions of people out there who are accepting high blood pressure as inevitable, who are taking medications they don't need, who are convinced they're just genetically unlucky. They need to hear this. And if you subscribe, you're helping us reach more of those people. You're part of the solution. Like this video if it's helpful. Drop a comment below, tell me if you've experienced high blood pressure, or if you've noticed that some people seem to age differently than others. Share your experience. Because this community we're building here is about real people doing real work to understand their health, not about celebrity doctors or miracle cures. Now, let's move into the first factor that Japanese elders use to maintain their cardiovascular health. The first factor is mineral balance, specifically the relationship between sodium and potassium. Now, you've probably heard someone tell you to eat less salt. That's incomplete advice. The real issue isn't salt itself. Salt is essential. Your body needs sodium. The problem is the ratio, how much sodium you consume relative to potassium, and crucially, where that sodium comes from. Here's the biology. Sodium drives fluid retention in the bloodstream. When you consume too much sodium, your body holds more water. More fluid in your vessels means higher pressure against the walls. That's basic physics. But there's also a neurochemical component. Sodium activates the sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight system. When that system is constantly activated, your blood vessels remain constricted. They don't relax. Over time, this contributes to vascular stiffness. The vessels lose their natural elasticity. Potassium does the opposite. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. It promotes vasodilation, which means your blood vessels relax and expand. It also helps your kidneys excrete excess sodium more efficiently. But here's the crucial part: after age 50, your kidneys become less efficient at handling sodium. If you're consuming high amounts of sodium from processed foods, your body simply can't flush it out as easily as it did when you were younger. The excess sodium accumulates. Blood pressure rises. Japanese elders solve this not by aggressive sodium restriction, which can actually harm cognition and athletic performance. Instead, they achieve a naturally lower sodium intake through their food choices, and they balance it with high potassium intake. Their traditional foods are fermented, miso soup, pickled vegetables, fermented sauces. These foods are preserved through fermentation, which requires some salt, but the total sodium content is far lower than processed Western foods. A serving of miso soup might have 500 to 600 milligrams of sodium. A can of condensed soup in America has 800 to 1,000 milligrams in a single serving. But more importantly, they consume vegetables constantly. Spinach, bok choy, daikon radish, seaweed, all of these are potassium dense. A single serving of seaweed provides more potassium than a banana. Green vegetables provide both potassium and magnesium, another mineral that relaxes blood vessel smooth muscle. So their sodium to potassium ratio is naturally favorable. They're not restricting sodium aggressively. They're just choosing foods where the mineral balance is already correct. This is practical. You don't need to become obsessed with sodium counting. You need to shift your food sources. Replace processed foods, packaged snacks, canned goods, restaurant meals, with whole foods that naturally have lower sodium and higher potassium. Include fermented foods if you can. Miso paste mixed with hot water takes 30 seconds to prepare. Seaweed snacks are available in most grocery stores. Add leafy greens to every meal. The mechanism isn't complicated. The execution is simple. After 50, this becomes even more critical because your kidney function has declined. Your sympathetic nervous system is more easily activated. Your vessels are already beginning to stiffen. The sodium-potassium balance isn't optional anymore. It's foundational. Comment below, does this shift how you think about salt? Have you noticed a difference when you reduce processed foods? Expansao Topic 1, Sodium-Mineral Balance. The sodium-potassium relationship is actually more complex than most people realize, and understanding this complexity is what separates people who successfully manage their blood pressure from those who don't. When researchers studied traditional Japanese populations, they expected to find dramatically lower sodium intake. And they did find lower intake of refined salt from processed foods. But what surprised them was that total sodium consumption wasn't actually that different from Western countries, roughly 3,500 to 3,800 milligrams daily in both populations. The difference wasn't the absolute amount of sodium. The difference was the source and the mineral context. In Western diets, sodium comes primarily from processed foods, canned soups, packaged snacks, restaurant meals, processed meats, bread products. These foods are also typically deficient in potassium and magnesium. The sodium to potassium ratio is skewed dramatically toward sodium, maybe 4 or 5 parts sodium to 1 part potassium. Your kidneys literally cannot excrete sodium efficiently without adequate potassium to balance it. The sodium accumulates. In traditional Japanese diets, sodium comes from fermented foods, miso, soy sauce, fermented vegetables, which are consumed in measured amounts and are part of meals that are also rich in potassium and magnesium. The sodium to potassium ratio is more balanced. Additionally, the fermentation process itself creates compounds that support vascular health. Fermented miso, for example, contains peptides that have been shown in studies to have ACE-inhibiting properties similar to certain blood pressure medications, but without the side effects. This is why simply reducing salt to levels that doctors often recommend, 1,500 mg daily, can actually be counterproductive. You need some sodium. Your body needs it for nerve function, muscle contraction, fluid balance. Aggressive sodium restriction can impair cognitive function and physical performance. What you actually need is balance. The research on this is clear. Populations that maintain a high potassium to sodium ratio have significantly lower blood pressure than populations with inverted ratios. And the populations with the most balanced mineral intake, high in potassium, magnesium, and calcium, with moderate sodium from whole food sources, have the lowest blood pressure overall. The second factor is fish consumption, specifically fatty fish. Japanese elders don't eat fish once a week as a special meal. They eat fish 3 to 5 times per week as part of normal eating patterns. Mackerel, sardines, wild salmon, not the farm-raised variety with high omega-6 ratios, but fish that comes from cold water and carries high concentrations of omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now, you've probably heard that omega-3s are good for you. But let me be specific about why they matter for blood pressure. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA from marine sources, are structural components of cell membranes. The endothelium, which is the lining of your blood vessels, is made of cells. These cells need to be flexible, responsive, able to produce nitric oxide on demand. If those cell membranes are built from omega-6 heavy fat, the endothelium becomes stiff. It loses responsiveness. Nitric oxide production decreases. Your blood vessels lose their ability to relax. Fish consumption directly reverses this at a cellular level. The omega-3s from fish integrate into your cell membranes. Your endothelial cells become more fluid, more responsive. They produce nitric oxide more readily. That nitric oxide causes your blood vessels to dilate, to open wider. Wider vessels mean lower pressure. It's not metaphorical. It's cellular biology. But there's more. Omega-3s reduce inflammation in the arterial walls themselves. Chronic inflammation drives vascular stiffness. Your immune system stays activated. Pro-inflammatory molecules circulate in your bloodstream. They damage the endothelium. They cause plaque formation. Fish consumption directly counteracts this. The omega-3s have potent anti-inflammatory properties. Studies show that populations with high fish intake maintain more elastic, younger blood vessels even into their 90s. Their arteries literally stay younger because the inflammatory damage that normally accumulates with age is being actively prevented. Additionally, omega-3s modulate blood viscosity, how thick your blood is. They help prevent inappropriate platelet aggregation, which reduces the risk of clotting. They also lower triglycerides, which is a marker of metabolic health that most doctors don't emphasize enough but is directly related to blood pressure regulation. Here's what matters practically: you need 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish per week. Not farm-raised salmon, which has been fed omega-6 a heavy feed and is nutrient-poor compared to wild salmon. Not breaded and fried fish, which destroys the omega-3 and adds inflammatory seed oils. Grilled, steamed, or baked. Simple preparation. Traditional Japanese methods: grilling over flame, steaming with vegetables, simmering in broth, preserve the omega-3s and add no additional sodium or sugar. If you're 50 or older, this becomes critical. After 50, your endothelial function naturally declines. Vascular inflammation accelerates. Your blood vessels are already becoming stiffer. Fish consumption is one of the most direct ways to counteract this specific aging process. It's not a supplement. It's not a pill. It's actual food that becomes part of your cellular structure. Type in the comments, have you noticed how you feel after eating fish versus other proteins? The third factor is daily movement, specifically low-intensity aerobic activity integrated naturally into life. Japanese urban and rural elders average between 6,000 and 10,000 steps daily. Not from going to a gym. Not from structured exercise routines. From walking to markets, walking to train stations, walking through neighborhoods, walking to social activities. The movement is woven into daily life. This is fundamentally different from the way most people in Western countries approach exercise. We think of exercise as something you schedule. Something you do in a specific place, in specific clothes, for a specific amount of time. If you don't work out, you haven't exercised. This mindset is backwards. Your body doesn't care whether you call it exercise. Your body responds to movement. Consistent, low-intensity movement is actually more beneficial for your cardiovascular system than the intense workouts that most people pursue. Here's the physiology. Low-intensity aerobic activity, walking at a conversational pace, roughly 3 to 4 miles per hour, triggers sustained production of nitric oxide in your endothelial cells. Nitric oxide is the primary vasodilator in your entire body. It's literally the chemical that tells your blood vessels to relax and expand. When you walk regularly, you're bathing your endothelium in nitric oxide. Your blood vessels stay dilated. Your resistance to blood flow decreases. Your blood pressure stays low. But here's what's crucial, this effect is sustained only with consistency. One intense workout doesn't produce this effect. In fact, intense exercise can be stressful on older cardiovascular systems. It can spike cortisol. It can cause acute vascular strain. What matters is daily, gentle, sustained movement. The Japanese elders don't need to go to a gym because their lifestyle is the gym. They're moving constantly, gently, consistently. Additionally, regular walking prevents the arterial stiffness that develops from sedentary behavior. When you sit for hours, your blood vessels don't receive the mechanical stimulus that keeps them flexible. They stiffen. The collagen and elastin in the arterial wall starts to cross-link, becoming less supple. Walking prevents this. The mechanical stress of blood flow through moving arteries actually maintains vascular elasticity. It's use it or lose it, literally. After age 50, high-intensity exercise can be risky. Your cardiovascular system is less able to handle acute stress. Your recovery is slower. High-intensity workouts can actually trigger cardiovascular events in sedentary individuals who suddenly start pushing hard. But low-intensity walking is safe. It's sustainable. You can do it every single day without recovery concerns. And it produces the nitric oxide effect that high-intensity exercise doesn't produce as effectively. The practical implementation is simple: 30 to 60 minutes of walking daily, at a pace where you can hold a conversation. This doesn't need to be a workout. Walk to the grocery store instead of driving. Walk around your neighborhood in the evening. Walk while talking on the phone. Accumulate 6,000 to 10,000 steps throughout the day through normal activities. That's it. Your blood pressure will respond. Comment, do you walk daily as part of your routine, or do you feel like exercise needs to be structured? Expansao Topic 3, Daily Walking. There's additional nuance to the walking mechanism that's worth understanding. When you walk, you're not just producing nitric oxide. You're also creating mechanical stress on your arteries that actually strengthens them. The force of blood flowing through your vessels during movement signals your endothelial cells to reinforce themselves. This is called mechanotransduction. The physical stimulus directly influences gene expression in your vascular cells. They literally build themselves stronger in response to the stress. This is why sedentary behavior is so dangerous. When you sit for hours, your arteries don't receive this stimulus. They don't get the signal to reinforce themselves. Over time, they become weaker, less responsive, more prone to stiffening. The arterial smooth muscle atrophies slightly. The endothelium becomes less responsive. This is why people who are sedentary despite eating well and managing stress still develop hypertension. The Japanese urban design actually facilitates this mechanotransductin effect. Public transportation requires walking to stations. Neighborhoods are designed for pedestrian access. Stores and markets are within walking distance. The culture doesn't treat walking as exercise. It treats it as normal living. So people accumulate movement throughout the day without effort or motivation. They're getting the mechanotransductin benefit constantly. Additionally, walking in daylight, which most people do during their daily walking, has effects beyond just the cardiovascular system. Sunlight exposure helps regulate circadian rhythm. It supports vitamin D production. It influences mood through serotonin pathways. So the Japanese elder who walks to the market in the morning isn't just supporting cardiovascular health through nitric oxide production. They're also supporting circadian rhythm, vitamin D status, and mood. The habits aren't isolated. They're synergistic. One more important point, the consistency matters more than the intensity. Someone who walks gently for 45 minutes daily will have better blood pressure outcomes than someone who does intense exercise 3 times per week. The daily gentle stimulus is what produces the continuous nitric oxide effect that protects your endothelium. Intense exercise is good for other aspects of health, but for blood pressure specifically, consistency and gentle intensity are more important. The fourth factor is sleep quality and stress management. Japanese culture has structured this deliberately. Evening bathing rituals, soaking in warm water, consistent sleep schedules, and strict boundaries between work and personal time. The typical Japanese elder sleeps between 6.5 and 7.5 hours per night, and they sleep and wake at nearly identical times every single day. This matters for blood pressure because chronic stress and poor sleep are direct drivers of hypertension. When you're chronically stressed, your sympathetic nervous system stays activated. Cortisol remains elevated. Your blood vessels remain constricted. Your heart rate stays elevated. Over weeks and months and years, this becomes your baseline. Your body forgets how to relax. Your blood pressure never comes down. Sleep deprivation makes this worse. When you don't sleep adequately, your body can't activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the system that actually lowers blood pressure. Most of the blood pressure reduction that occurs in your 24-hour cycle happens at night, during sleep. Your blood vessels relax. Your heart rate slows. Your hormones rebalance. If you're not sleeping well, this recovery process doesn't happen. You wake up already stressed. Your blood pressure stays elevated throughout the day. You go to bed still stressed. The next night you can't sleep well again. It's a vicious cycle. Japanese elders break this cycle through deliberate practice. The evening bath ritual is crucial. Warm water triggers parasympathetic activation. When you soak in warm water for 15 to 20 minutes, your body temperature rises slightly. When you exit the bath, your body cools down. This temperature drop signals to your brain that it's time to sleep. It's a natural sleep inducer. Additionally, the ritual itself, the act of bathing as a dedicated relaxation practice, creates psychological boundaries. The work day is over. This time is for rest. Your nervous system gets the signal. Consistent sleep schedule reinforces this. Your circadian rhythm is powerful. If you sleep and wake at the same time every day, your body learns to expect sleep at that time. You'll naturally become tired as bedtime approaches. Your melatonin will rise at the right time. You'll sleep better. But if your sleep schedule is chaotic, sleeping at 11 p.m. one night, 1 a.m. the next, waking at different times, your circadian rhythm stays confused. Your melatonin doesn't rise on schedule. You don't sleep well. Your cortisol doesn't normalize. Your blood pressure stays elevated. Additionally, Japanese culture doesn't permit work stress to invade evening time. Work communication ends. Emails aren't checked. Work thoughts are set aside deliberately. This is difficult in modern Western culture, where work is always available, always demanding. But the effect is real. If your brain is processing work stress while you're trying to sleep, you don't sleep well. Cortisol stays elevated. Blood pressure remains high. After age 50, this becomes more critical. Sleep architecture naturally fragments. You sleep less deeply. You wake more frequently. Your circadian rhythm becomes less robust. Cortisol dysregulation becomes common. Without deliberate practices, structured evening routines, consistent sleep times, stress boundaries, your sleep quality will decline and your blood pressure will rise. The practical implementation: establish a consistent sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even weekends. Soak in warm water for 15 to 20 minutes 1 to 2 hours before bed. Set a firm boundary: no work-related activity after dinner. No emails. No work thoughts. Protect your evening. Your cardiovascular system will respond. Type: how has your sleep schedule affected your overall health? The fifth factor is vegetable consumption. Japanese elders eat 5 to 7 servings of vegetables daily, and when I say servings, I mean significant portions. Leafy greens like spinach and bok choy. Root vegetables like daikon and carrots. Seasonal vegetables prepared simply through steaming, grilling, or minimal sautéing. These vegetables are a staple of every meal, not a side dish. The mechanisms are multiple. Vegetables provide polyphenols and flavonoids, natural antioxidant compounds. They provide dietary nitrates, which your body converts to nitric oxide, the vasodilator we discussed earlier. They provide magnesium, which directly relaxes smooth muscle in your blood vessel walls. They're naturally low in sodium while being rich in potassium. They provide fiber, which feeds your gut microbiota, and the short-chain fatty acids produced by that microbiota actually lower blood pressure through metabolic pathways that most people don't understand. Let me explain that last part because it's crucial. Your gut bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids when they digest fiber. These fatty acids enter your bloodstream. They influence your immune system, reducing inflammatory markers. They influence your vascular function. Studies show that people with healthy, diverse gut microbiota have lower blood pressure than people with dysbiotic guts. Vegetables are the primary food that supports healthy gut bacteria. This is real medicine. This is actual physiology. Additionally, the antioxidants in vegetables, particularly polyphenols like quercetin and resveratrol, directly protect your endothelial cells from oxidative damage. As you age, oxidative stress increases. Your mitochondria produce more free radicals. Your cells accumulate damage. This damage accelerates vascular dysfunction. It contributes to endothelial stiffness. Vegetables are your defense against this. They're not supplements. They're medicine. After age 50, vascular endothelial cells suffer increased oxidative damage. Gut dysbiosis becomes more common. Inflammation naturally increases. Vegetables directly address all three of these problems simultaneously. They're not optional. They're foundational. The practical implementation: 5 to 7 servings daily. That sounds like a lot, but a serving is roughly a cup of raw greens or a half cup of cooked vegetables. A large salad is 2 to 3 servings. A stir-fry with vegetables is 2 to 3 servings. Include at least 1 leafy green daily: spinach, kale, bok choy, whatever you can access. Include at least 1 root vegetable daily: carrot, daikon, sweet potato. Vary the colors because different colors indicate different antioxidant profiles. Red peppers have lycopene. Orange sweet potatoes have beta-carotene. Dark greens have lutein and zeaxanthin. Your body needs variety. Preparation matters. Raw greens preserve all antioxidants. Lightly cooked vegetables preserve most antioxidants. But even if you lose some antioxidants through cooking, the other benefits, the fiber for your gut bacteria, the minerals for your muscles, the nutrients for your cells, remain. Cook the way that makes vegetables palatable to you. If you prefer them steamed or roasted, do that. The goal is eating them consistently. Fermented vegetables are a bonus. Kimchi, miso-based preparations, fermented pickles, these add probiotics on top of all the other benefits. Your gut bacteria population directly improves, which further reduces inflammation and blood pressure. Comment, what's your biggest barrier to eating more vegetables, and what might actually work for you? Expansao Topic 5, Vegetables and Gut Health. I want to expand on the gut microbiota connection because it's one of the most underappreciated mechanisms linking diet to blood pressure control. Your gut bacteria outnumber your own cells. They weigh about 2 kilograms. They're not just living in your intestines. They're producing compounds that directly influence your cardiovascular health. When these bacteria digest dietary fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids, primarily butyrate, propionate, and acetate. These fatty acids cross your intestinal barrier and enter your bloodstream. Butyrate is particularly important. It serves as the primary energy source for the cells lining your colon. It reinforces the intestinal barrier, preventing leaky gut, which is where bacterial endotoxins enter your bloodstream and trigger systemic inflammation. Systemic inflammation is a major driver of vascular dysfunction and hypertension. By feeding your gut bacteria adequate fiber, you're producing butyrate, strengthening your intestinal barrier, and reducing systemic inflammation. This directly lowers your blood pressure. But there's more. Short-chain fatty acids influence your immune system. They promote the development of regulatory T cells, which reduce inflammatory responses. They shift your immune system away from a pro-inflammatory state toward a balanced state. This is crucial for blood pressure control because much of hypertension in aging populations is actually driven by chronic immune activation and inflammation. The challenge is that most Western diets don't provide adequate fiber. Processed foods contain minimal fiber. People eating Western diets have gut bacteria populations that are smaller, less diverse, and less capable of producing short-chain fatty acids. This contributes to intestinal barrier dysfunction, systemic inflammation, and high blood pressure. Japanese diets are naturally high in fiber from vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and seaweed. The gut bacteria of Japanese populations are different, larger populations, greater diversity, more efficient at producing short-chain fatty acids. This is part of why they maintain lower blood pressure and lower rates of inflammatory diseases. If you increase vegetable consumption and suddenly start eating a lot of fiber when your gut isn't adapted to it, you'll experience bloating and gas. This is temporary. Your gut bacteria population will expand to handle the fiber within a few weeks. You have to start gradually, add a serving of vegetables per day every few days, and let your gut bacteria population adjust. But once it does, you'll feel better, digest better, and your blood pressure will improve. The sixth factor is green tea consumption. Japanese elders drink 2 to 3 cups of green tea daily, often with meals. This isn't casual tea consumption. This is deliberate, consistent intake of a beverage that carries specific cardiovascular benefits. Green tea contains EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, a polyphenol that has been extensively studied for its effects on vascular function. The research is consistent. EGCG improves endothelial function. It increases nitric oxide availability. It reduces blood vessel stiffness. These effects are modest individually but compound with consistency. Over months and years, regular green tea consumption correlates with measurably lower blood pressure. But there's more. EGCG has mild diuretic properties, which means it promotes healthy sodium excretion through your kidneys. It also inhibits angiotensin II signaling. Angiotensin II is a hormone that constricts blood vessels and is a key pathway in hypertension development. Green tea gently suppresses this pathway without the side effects of pharmaceutical ACE inhibitors. Now, here's what's important: the effect is present only if you're actually consuming green tea regularly. 1 cup doesn't change anything. But 2 to 3 cups daily, day after day, year after year, that compounds. Your endothelium becomes more responsive. Your blood vessels maintain flexibility. Your blood pressure stays lower than it would otherwise. The preparation matters. Boiling water destroys polyphenols. Green tea needs to be steeped at around 160 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to extract the beneficial compounds but not so hot that you destroy them. If you're using a kettle, let the water cool for about 3 to 5 minutes after boiling before steeping your tea. The difference is real. After age 50, green tea's effects are most pronounced because the age-related endothelial dysfunction it addresses becomes more pronounced in this age group. Your endothelium naturally loses some responsiveness. Green tea helps maintain that responsiveness. Additionally, most people who should be reducing caffeine in later life still drink caffeinated beverages, coffee, energy drinks, sodas. Green tea provides gentle caffeine without the jittery effects, plus the cardiovascular benefits. It's a substitution that works. The practical implementation: 2 to 3 cups daily. That's it. Consume it with meals or as part of a morning or afternoon ritual. No sugar added, the tea itself is the medicine. No milk, which can bind some of the polyphenols, reducing absorption. Just tea and water. If plain green tea tastes too bitter to you, try higher quality loose leaf tea rather than tea bags. The flavor is noticeably better. Or try slightly cooler water temperature, which extracts less bitterness while still extracting the beneficial compounds. Some people respond better to specific varieties. Sencha, matcha, or gyokuro are all excellent sources of EGCG. Japanese tea farmers have optimized their growing and processing methods over centuries to maximize polyphenol content. You're not just drinking tea. You're consuming a beverage that your cardiovascular system recognizes as medicine. Type: do you currently drink green tea? And if not, what would make it appealing to you? The 7th factor is meal timing and portion control. Japanese culture practices something called harahachi-bu, eating until you are 80% full, not stuffed. Meals are consumed at consistent times. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Minimal snacking. Portions are naturally smaller because meals are composed of multiple small dishes instead of one large plate. This matters for blood pressure in ways that most people don't appreciate. When you overeat, several things happen physiologically. First, you trigger a postprandial blood pressure spike. After a large meal, your blood pressure temporarily rises as your digestive system diverts blood flow to your gut and your sympathetic nervous system activates to handle the metabolic load. If you're eating large meals regularly, you're spiking your blood pressure multiple times per day. Second, overeating disrupts glucose homeostasis. Your blood sugar rises higher than it should. Your pancreas releases more insulin. Insulin itself affects your kidney's ability to excrete sodium, which contributes to hypertension. Additionally, chronic overeating leads to weight gain, which is itself a driver of hypertension through multiple pathways: increased sodium reabsorption in the kidneys, increased sympathetic nervous system activation, increased inflammation. Third, inconsistent meal timing disrupts your circadian rhythm. Your body has a circadian rhythm not just for sleep but for metabolism. If you eat at different times each day, your metabolic rhythm gets confused. Your cortisol doesn't normalize properly. Your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems don't oscillate correctly. This contributes to elevated resting blood pressure. Japanese elders solve all 3 problems through simple practices. They eat at consistent times: breakfast at 7 a.m., lunch at 12 p.m., dinner at 6 p.m., roughly the same time every day. They stop eating when satisfied, not when the plate is empty. This takes practice. After years of eating until you feel completely full, recognizing 80% fullness requires attention. But it's learnable. You literally just stop eating while you could still eat more. The practical implementation is straightforward. Use smaller plates and bowls. This psychological trick works. Your brain registers fullness partly through visual cues. A full small bowl triggers more satisfaction than a half-full large bowl. Include water-rich foods, a miso soup, vegetable broth, steamed vegetables, because these provide bulk and satiety without excess calories. A traditional Japanese meal structure is effective: small portion of rice, 1 protein source, 2 to 3 vegetable dishes, and miso soup. That's it. You eat all of it, and you're satisfied. You're eating 80% of what you would eat if you had the Western meal structure of a large protein, large starch, and minimal vegetables. After age 50, your autonomic nervous system becomes less responsive to hunger and fullness cues. Overeating becomes easier. Your metabolism is slower. Weight gain accelerates more easily. The consequences of meal timing disruption become more severe. You don't have the metabolic flexibility you had at 25. The 80% fullness practice and consistent meal timing become non-negotiable. Comment: what's your relationship with portion sizes? Do you tend to eat until you're completely full, or can you stop when satisfied? The eighth and final factor is social connection and purpose, what in Japanese culture is called ikigai, a reason for being. Japanese elders maintain strong social networks. They're embedded in family structures, neighborhood groups, temple communities, activity clubs. They have regular, consistent social contact. They have a sense of purpose. They're engaged with their communities. Loneliness is rare. This might seem separate from blood pressure physiology, but it's not. Social isolation and chronic loneliness directly activate your sympathetic nervous system. They elevate cortisol chronically. They trigger inflammatory responses in your immune system. Studies show that the cardiovascular effects of chronic loneliness are equivalent to smoking. Isolated individuals have significantly higher blood pressure, higher rates of heart disease, and earlier mortality. Conversely, social connection activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It reduces cortisol. It lowers inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein and interleukin-6. The effect is measurable and significant. People who have strong social networks and feel socially connected have lower resting blood pressure than isolated people, even when controlling for other factors like diet and exercise. Additionally, having a sense of purpose, ikigai, correlates with better autonomic regulation. Your nervous system stays more balanced. Your inflammatory tone stays lower. People who feel that their life has meaning and purpose have better cardiovascular outcomes than people who don't. But here's what's critical: this isn't about occasional social contact. Japanese elders have consistent, regular social engagement. They know their neighbors. They participate in community activities. They have family obligations that keep them engaged. The social connection is woven into daily life, not something that happens quarterly. After age 50, social isolation becomes more common. You retire and lose your work social structure. You experience loss. Your mobility might decline, making social engagement harder. In cultures without strong community structures, this leads to depression, chronic stress, and hypertension. Japanese cultural structures prevent this. Multi-generational living keeps you connected to family. Temple communities and activity groups provide social structure. Neighborhood relationships are maintained. The practical implementation is more challenging in modern Western culture because we don't have the same built-in social structures. But the principle remains: seek consistent, regular social engagement. Not quarterly. Weekly, at minimum. Maintain family connections. If family isn't available, create found family through activity groups, classes, volunteer work, or community organizations. Identify something that gives your life purpose: contribution to family, community service, mastery of a craft or skill, whatever resonates with you. The specific activity matters less than the meaning you ascribe to it. If you're isolated right now, this is the single factor that might be most difficult to change. But it's also one of the most powerful. Loneliness isn't just emotionally difficult. It's physiologically dangerous. Your cardiovascular system responds to your social environment. If you want to control your blood pressure, you have to address your social isolation. Type: do you have the social connections and sense of purpose that support your health? What would need to change? Now, these 8 factors: sodium and potassium balance, fish consumption, daily movement, sleep and stress management, vegetables, green tea, meal timing and portion control, and social connection and purpose, don't work in isolation. They form a system. The dietary elements work through specific vascular mechanisms, improving endothelial function, promoting vasodilation, reducing inflammation. The behavioral elements support these mechanisms through autonomic regulation and circadian alignment. The social and psychological element maintains the nervous system tone that allows everything else to work effectively. Japanese elders have normal blood pressure not because they're genetically different. They have normal blood pressure because they live a lifestyle that actively supports vascular health at the cellular level, every single day. Each habit reinforces the others. Each factor addresses a different mechanism of age-related vascular dysfunction. Together, they create a coherent system that prevents the progressive stiffening and endothelial damage that drives hypertension in aging populations. You don't need to implement all 8 simultaneously. But each one matters. Each one contributes to the outcome. Start with one. Build consistency. Then add another. Over months and years, you'll establish a lifestyle pattern that supports your cardiovascular health the same way Japanese elders do. If you've made it this far, you've invested time in understanding your own health. You've seen the physiology. You understand the mechanisms. You know what works and why it works. That puts you ahead of the vast majority of people who just accept high blood pressure as inevitable, who fill prescriptions without understanding what the underlying dysfunction is, who believe their genetics determine their fate. You have choices. You have agency. Your blood pressure isn't fixed. It's not determined by your genes alone. It's determined by your daily habits, what you eat, how you move, how you sleep, how you manage stress, how you connect with others. Change those habits and your blood pressure changes. Please subscribe to this channel. Not for me. For the people in your life who need to hear this. For the people who are struggling with hypertension and don't realize that most of it isn't actually genetic or inevitable. For the people who are taking medications they don't need because they haven't been shown the practical alternatives. If you subscribe, you're amplifying this message. You're making sure it reaches people who need it. Like this video. Drop a comment. Tell me which of these 8 factors resonates most strongly with you. Which one are you going to tackle first? Share your commitment. Because this community we're building, this is about people taking responsibility for their own health, understanding their own physiology, making practical changes that actually work. Watch the next video in this series. There are more habits, more mechanisms, more practical strategies that Japanese elders use to prevent disease. Each video builds on the ones before. You're not just learning facts. You're building a comprehensive understanding of how your body actually works and how to support it. Your cardiovascular system is responding to everything you do. Right now. Today. Every meal, every step, every hour of sleep or lack of sleep, every moment of social connection or isolation, all of it affects your blood vessels, your endothelium, your blood pressure. The question isn't whether change is possible. The question is whether you're ready to make it.